Hello and welcome to Inside Sports, presented by Meritus Health, Urgent Care, and Total Rehab. I'm Wes Decker. Ahead on the show, Week 2's football. Bob Parsaliti will be here to talk about that, plus a couple of South Hagerstown Rebels in the house. And we'll bring you up to date on cross country and volleyball too with Andy Mason and Dan Kaufman. Back to get things started in just a moment.
When your family is hurting, you don't have time to wait. Act now. Visit Meritus Urgent Care on Pennsylvania Avenue. Open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Meritus Urgent Care treats minor conditions like earaches, sore throats, and sprains. Meritus Urgent Care also offers x-rays and sports physicals, and many prescriptions are filled on site. Located off Interstate 81 on Pennsylvania Avenue, visit Meritus Urgent Care. Expert care, close to home.
Behind every great child, there is a great foundation. Premier Martial Arts will empower your child and give them a premier foundation to success. Our instructors have the passion to teach classes designed to build premier skills. Your child will develop greater self-control, confidence, and concentration. Premier Martial Arts will take your child up the path of greatness. Call Premier Martial Arts today.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, presented by Meritus Health, Urgent Care, and Total Rehab. Time for our football segment now, and for that, putting on the glasses to get down to business. I'm joined by Herald Mail insider Bob Parsaliti. And Bob, in Week 2 so far, we've got 2 unbeaten standing now through 2 weeks, and Clear Spring one of those. Clear Spring defeating Brunswick in its home opener by a score of 28-10. Joe McCoy picking up where he left off in week number 1. And I think, too, a big key in that game for Clear Spring was Colin Wilhite, not only at quarterback, but also as defensive back. 2 more interceptions in that game. I think right now Clear Spring kind of hitting on all cylinders. Big game coming up this week against Manchester Valley, but still, I think when Coach Bathgate talked playoffs before the season began, this is exactly what he wanted to see, a 2-0 start.
Well, he said that they had to start early or start off quickly in order to do anything, and they got a big win against St. James and then this one against Brunswick. This is the first time they ever beat Brunswick. They were lost the first 8 times, and this is only the second time in school history that they started 2-0.
And 2 touchdowns in their first 2 possessions, so again, getting started early in games. Boonesboro, as I said, also moves to 2-0, a 27-0 victory over North Carroll. The Warriors went for it on a 4th and 1 on the opening drive from their own 46, so you know that they meant business. Jackson Krasny picked that up, and then after that, it's kind of the Griffith to Wetzel show once again. A couple of touchdown passes there between those two. And Dylan Bodenheimer, big on defense for a Boonesboro team that's looked very good defensively through 2 games.
Well, basically, the defense hasn't given up a point yet. The only 6 points they got were off of a fumble return by Catoctin. So that's an offensive problem there. I think it was a big step for Boonesboro this week because Devin Griffith felt a little more comfortable. It's going to be. It looks like it's pretty obvious that the Griffith to Wetzel is going to be a big part of that offense as far as passing goes.
No question about that. And now Boonesboro goes to Brunswick, a team that's now 0-2 here in week number 3. You saw the Hancock game, the Panthers at home against Mount Carmel, and boy, the drama really unfolded in that 4th quarter. And in the end, things just did not go Hancock's way. Mount Carmel wins it by a point, 18-17.
Well, they were up. Mount Carmel was up by a couple of points, and Hancock goes down and scores. Ian Mann scores a touchdown with about 10:50 to go. Mount Carmel gets the ball back. 8 seconds later, throws a swing pass that goes 65, 67 yards for a touchdown. They're up 18-17. And the last minute was a huge, you figure Mount Carmel would find a way to ice it, and they didn't. They go for a punt, and on the punt snap, the punter takes a knee, so they get the ball at the point. So about the 32-yard line, Hancock has the ball. They have pass interference on the first play, illegal participation because some guy comes running off the sideline right before they go to snap it. So all of a sudden, they're down to the 12. They got down to the 9 with 10.4 seconds ago, go for a field goal. The snap is high. The holder, Jared Hose, jumps up in the air, grabs it, gets down on his knees, and puts it on the ground for Brady Norris to kick it, but he goes wide right. As they kick it, Hose gets buried by a player. They get illegal running into somebody holding the ball or whatever it is, and they move it up by 5 yards, and then they get the kick blocked, and that's the end of the game.
Man, talk about a heartbreaker. And last year, Hancock lost by 2 to Mount Carmel,
Right.
so 2 losses by a combined 3 points in 2 years.
And Mount Carmel is 2-0, and they've won both games by 1 point.
I'll tell you what, it should be Mount Karma because they've got the karma on
Yeah.
their side without question. Hancock now at 1-1 will host Carson Long coming up on Saturday. Berkeley Springs and St. James, another shootout for St. James on their turf out there, and a 41-23 victory, but it was a tale of 2 halves in that game.
It really
Bob.
was. It really was. First half, it was like trading touchdowns, but there was just enough mistakes to let Berkeley Springs take a 23-21 lead at the half. And what I thought happened was that Taylor Raymond was getting a lot of pressure and wasn't getting much time to actually throw the ball. So what they did was they brought in John Meshi, who's usually one of their receivers, and put him in at the back. He ran the first play after they stopped. They got a touchdown to go ahead, and on the first possession, Berkeley Springs got halted on downs. First play went to Meshi. He ran around left end, went 57 yards for a touchdown. All of a sudden, they're up, and then it's just they took over. The defense took over that game. Meshi came through, had 3 interceptions in the final quarter, and ran one of them back 99 yards for a touchdown. And I mean, they just basically they basically grew up in that game. If they take anything from that game and go on, they could be somebody to really watch.
And that performance by John Meshi makes him our Buffalo Wild Wings Player of the Week. I mean, 3 interceptions alone is a heck of a day's work, but you talk about running for a touchdown and catching a touchdown pass in addition to that. And you talk about that defense, Bob, just unbelievable in the second half. 5 Berkeley Springs possessions, 29 plays, only 102 yards, and 3 turnovers. Big flip-flop from first half to second half.
Well, considering in the first half they gave up 3 or 4 plays that were 30 yards or more, too.
Yeah, so that's huge for St. James going forward, and in going forward immediately, they'll have St. John's Catholic Prep coming up this week, a team that is 1-0-1 right now, according to Max Preps. Williamsport looking to move to 2-0 at home against Century on Friday night. Things started well enough for the Wildcats, although they couldn't necessarily finish a drive where a fake punt put them in great field position. They got a field goal out of it for a 3-0 lead, but after that it was all Century for the most part, and Century really dominating that game until the fourth quarter where Williamsport was able to put 12 points on the board. Just a tough one for Williamsport because they were looking to gather some more of that momentum off Week 1's victory, but Century coming in and proving that it's going to take more from Williamsport as a team to get things done.
Well, they didn't let the defense get off the field when Century runs for 499 yards, runs up to 499 yards.
Yeah, and that keeps the ball out of the hands of
Exactly.
the offense, too. I mean, when somebody's got 499 yards of offense on the ground the other way, that's never a good sign. North Hagerstown at Tuscarora. No secret that the Hubs have struggled of late. And actually, they made some inroads against Tuscarora, although it all came late. North Hagerstown outscoring Tuscarora 21-7 over the final 26.5 minutes, but it was the first 13.5 minutes that really hurt the Hubs in that game. If you take anything away from that, perhaps it's some of the youth of North Hagerstown setting some school records. Sophomore Benny Barnes setting a couple of school records, attempting 37 passes, completing 18, 2 of those for touchdowns, including one to freshman Scott Neal, who also etched his name in the record book at North by establishing a new single-game reception mark with 8. But again, it's a loss when all is said and done. But I think maybe you can see some strides, even though they came late in that game. It's a North Hagerstown team that last year, as the season went along, I think got better, and plenty of season left here to, again, I mean, one win is going to be big for them because that's really the launching point for their confidence.
Well, you look at it too. I mean, yeah, they got them late, but it shows that they got some free extra time to practice against somebody and, you know, get a little success. So
Right.
It's got to help.
And North will host Century coming up this week. Smithsburg falls to Manchester Valley 14-7. If you come up with 4 interceptions on defense, you should win that game. But somehow Manchester Valley just kept throwing, and it was a touchdown pass in the third quarter that ends up beating Smithsburg 14-7. But if you can say one thing about the Leopards, it's that defense is stout.
Well, and that's something that they have to really lean on. From what it looked like, they're going to be a running, primarily probably a running team. A lot of it fullback oriented probably. And then they turned Bryce Scott, who's the fullback, also took him off the line and put him at linebacker, and he's been doing a lot of great things out of the linebacking slot for them.
So Smithsburg at 1-1 will host 0-2 North Carroll coming up on Friday. Well, the glass has come off. That means football's over from now. Bob, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on.
I'll be back right after this. There is some more football to talk about. I've got a couple of guests from the South Hagerstown Rebels right here when you come back.
Excuse me, you realize this television's on a channel with men in silk robes slapping each other? Maybe we could just switch it to where the athletes are wearing shoes?
This gentleman and this gentleman want to know if we can change his channel.
I love karate. He doesn't like karate.
No, me?
You don't like karate?
I love it. Are you kidding? I was telling you how much I want to join a dojo. Could you recommend a dojo?
Buffalo Wild Wings, 21 sauces and seasonings, tons of taps, and countless flat screens. Nowhere is sports more alive.
Yeah, how can we help you today?
I really need to get back to work.
Whether it's going back to work or getting back on the golf course, Total Rehab Care maximizes every patient's individual potential, offering state-of-the-art rehab, including physical, occupational, and speech therapy, all in one location. Experts who take a personal interest in their patients' progress. Call or visit online for more information. Meritus Health, treating the community well.
Welcome back to the show. We continue now with a couple of South Hagerstown Rebels. The Rebels victorious on Friday night over Urbana 37-7. Dre Richmond and TJ Peer join me now. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, it's great to have you, and I'm sure, Dre, coming off a win, that makes things just a little bit brighter in this season where you knew going in the schedule was so difficult to begin with. So you get Urbana on Friday night, a team that South had never beaten, although had only played 2 times. Big win. What does this do for you confidence-wise now after that victory?
To be honest, I'm just really thankful for them coming out to us and giving us the opportunity to even face them this year, because that right there makes us know we're getting better one game at a time and stuff like that. And then with that, with Urbana coming out there to face us and all these other teams giving us the opportunity to even face them, it just makes our whole team better, and every practice we work harder every day.
Yeah, I know, TJ, you talk about this season with the schedule the way it is, that every game is a measuring stick game. And after losing such a heartbreaker to Mervo in week 1, this is almost a must-win game in a way in looking toward the postseason potentially. Tell me about the mindset going into that game against Urbana on Friday.
We knew we had to fix certain things and fix all the mistakes we made on the previous Friday, so we had to improve ourselves every day at practice and get ready for the big dogs on Friday.
Yeah, and I think you guys took care of business in that game. Defense came out and played very well from the start. You get them off the field, get the ball deep in your own end, and then TJ's punt kind of turns things around. The muff punt gets the offense going. But this defense, Dre, talk a little bit about the defense, because didn't allow a single point against Mervo, only 7 points allowed against Urbana.
Well, this year, I truly think our D lineman and our defense coordinator, Coach Urish, I truly thank him, because he puts time and effort, literally most of his time into our defense to make us better. He gives us playbooks, gives us everything. And then our D linemen, they're the only reason why, one of the big reasons why our defense is so good, because they will plug the holes when they need to. They'll do everything they need to do. And our safeties, they are smart. They do it. They know what to do. And I trust everyone on my defensive.
And you guys have been terrific at rallying to the football too. I mean, it's very rare that there's just one jersey there. A lot of gang tackling. I know the way the game started, they got a 33-yard run right out of the box, but after that, I mean, it was shutdown mode and forcing those turnovers again. How much pride do you take in taking the football away?
I take a lot of pride into that, because the defense is I just take a lot of pride into our defense this year. Our defense, I just love our defense this year, and I hope we do it way better than last year, and just hope we get better a lot. And like you say, how we come all together, that's what we need to keep doing.
Well, I know Coach has talked about the all-in this year, TJ, and obviously I'm sure you hear about it more than anybody else. living in the same house as the coach. But why does his message resonate so much with the guys on the team? I mean, he has found this connect that has been so successful. Why do you think that works?
His messages don't only apply to football, but they also apply to life. So it could also make us better men as well as better football players.
And it's amazing that you guys as a group are so mature, I think, to buy into that overall. And let's talk a little bit about the offense, which you engineer. I know you had to be a little frustrated in week number 1, but week number 2, things got so much better. And when you threw your touchdown passes, I mean, Marcel Jones was wide open twice. James Brooks was wide open. What worked there for you in the passing game that got those guys so open?
Our schemes, they were there that week, and also at practice, we just practiced harder and we got better so that we ran better routes and were able to get open.
And I know Darian Robinson wasn't there for week number 1. Clearly, he is a huge part of this football team just because of the skill set that he brings. Can you talk a little bit about what a difference maker he is within the offense?
Yeah, our team is all in, and week 1 we weren't all in because he wasn't there. So it was great to have him back week 2 for us to be all in. And he brings a different asset to the offense that no one else can with his speed.
Dre, I look at the roster for South Hagerstown, and I see beside your name, there's linebacker on defense, there's fullback on offense. Beside TJ's name, I see quarterback on offense, linebacker on defense. So give me a percentage of what the chance is that you would play any fullback this year versus TJ playing any linebacker.
It's about the same percentage.
We're
probably not going to do it.
so that's probably not going to happen, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think that's why this team is so successful, because everybody buys in to the roles that they need to have. And big game coming up this Friday, as seemingly they all are this season long. You get an undefeated South Carroll team at their place. Best of luck in that game, guys, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
for the opportunity.
Sure, no problem. I will be back right after this. I've got a couple of Herald Mail insiders who will join me, Dan Kaufman and Andy Mason, right after this.
When your family is hurting, you don't have time to wait. Act now. Visit Meritus Urgent Care on Pennsylvania Avenue. Open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Meritus Urgent Care treats minor conditions like earaches, sore throats, and sprains. Meritus Urgent Care also offers x-rays and sports physicals, and many prescriptions are filled on site. Located off Interstate 81 on Pennsylvania Avenue, visit Meritus Urgent Care. Expert care, close to home.
Behind every great child, there is a great foundation. Premier Martial Arts will empower your child and give them a premier foundation to success. Our instructors have the passion to teach classes designed to build premier skills. Your child will develop greater self-control, confidence, and concentration. Premier Martial Arts will take your child up the path of greatness. Call Premier Martial Arts today.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, and we continue now with all sports not named football. And I'm joined by Andy Mason and Dan Kaufman from the Herald Mail. Welcome back to the show, guys. Andy, let me start with you and cross country. Darren Harmon of South Hagerstown really picking up where he left off last year.
Yeah, he's clearly the #1 boy in the county this fall, as he was last year. Just last weekend, he won on his home course at the Rebel Invitational. Dominated, won by 24 seconds over Smithsburg's Will Merritt, who right now I'd say is the #2 runner in the county. Goretti's William Jones was there, another top county runner. But yeah, Harmon's the man to beat, and I don't know if anyone in the county is going to beat him.
Are you surprised at all right now where South is as a team as far as the boys are concerned?
Yeah, a little surprised. They have the best 1-2 punch in the county. Harmon's the best runner in the county, and they have also, with Timmy Whitmer, they have the best #2 runner in the county. Whitmer would be the top runner on most other teams in the county, but he's #2 behind Harmon, and they finished second overall on their home, out of 12 teams at the Rebel. And, Smithsburg was fourth, and, coming into the season, we kind of thought Smithsburg and Boonesboro were going to be slugging it out for top, who's the best team in the county, and South High is going to be right there too, it looks like.
And Boonesboro did get the win in the small school division at the
Interstate right.
Classic the week prior to that.
Boonesboro's still the team to beat.
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, they're two-time defending county champs, and I still think they're probably the strongest team in the county.
On the girls' side, when we talk Boonesboro, clearly there's one name who's been absent from the lineup so far, very conspicuous by her absence.
Yes, Haley Wright, best runner in the county, male or female.
What's the story there?
I guess I understand she had a respiratory infection. She started Interstate Classic at Clear Spring. She's in the lead, but sick. Becky Walter pulls her off the course around 2 miles. Then at the mountain run at Woodsboro Park last week, she's in the lead a mile into the race, and Becky pulls her off because she's just not herself. She probably could have won both those races, but what's it worth? I understand she's a lot better, and she's ready to go this Saturday in Leesburg at the very prestigious Oatlands Invitational.
Wow, so back for one of the big ones,
yeah.
No question about that. And Smithsburg winning, the girls winning at that Interstate Classic, and they were without Mallory Moholt, so the number one on both teams not there. For
Mallory's hurt to begin the year. She was at the Rebel. She wasn't in the varsity lineup, but she did win the JV race, so I think she's on her way back.
So a little bit of drama and intrigue in terms of lineups right now with the elite teams.
We saw Cameron Harper from Boonesboro actually still hasn't cracked the varsity lineup, but I expect that to happen soon, and that's going to make them a much stronger team.
Wow, so more to keep an eye on here than perhaps we thought at the beginning of the season, with those lineups being filled out entirely with all of the stars out there. So it'll take a little while here as the season unfolds before we really see what these teams have for sure, but certainly expecting some big things along the way, no question of that. Dan, it's kind of the same story with volleyball, not from the injury standpoint, but just kind of ramping up. And I know you saw Clear Spring last week.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot to take from volleyball so far this season. From an overall perspective, we haven't seen enough. But I did get to see Clear Spring play Brunswick. Was really impressed with their team depth. I mean, it starts with Grace Ramachati, who's their returning all-county player. She had 16 kills against Brunswick and kind of fueled everything for them. But they have a lot of really versatile players, girls who can set, can hit, play good defense. Players like Hannah Bowers, who was a libero last year and is now kind of in that 6'2" setting role where when she's not setting, she goes and hits. Anna Potterfield, Maddie Miller, just a lot of pieces that can do a lot of different things for them. So I was really impressed. They had, I think, 8 players against Brunswick that made significant contributions. And I think that's something they're going to need all season long. I mean, they're best with the sum of the parts working together. Right. The question about them, and Coach Sabrina LaHue would even say this, their goal is Smithsburg in the 1A playoffs. And so there's 2 questions. Number 1, can their defense handle the firepower that Smithsburg's going to bring? And number 2, can their offense generate enough to put Smithsburg in trouble defensively? Those are questions we're just going to have to see. It's tough task, but you never know till you get out there. And Smithsburg, as we're taping today, is just preparing for its season opener. Yeah, have their opener Tuesday night. So, their big matches are obviously still to come. And I know Coach Rachel Brashear is excited to get going. Yeah, that's what I understand. I don't know. There's a Dan Kaufman connection to this, but we don't have time to get into all of that. On Thursday, big match in terms of intra-county between Williamsport and North Hagerstown. Right. As of right now, both teams are 2-0. North Hagerstown, the question mark was coming in for them. They lost a fair amount of their starters from last year, so who would step up and join Jay LaBelle as a number 2 option? Well, Nicole Murray did really well in that role with 12 kills and 17 digs against Linganore. She's kind of emerging as that number 2, so that's big for them. Williamsport at 2-0 going into this taping. Bryn Lewis and Samantha Raitt, 2 familiar names from last year, have kind of led the way for them. It's a big test for Williamsport on Thursday. I think we'll learn more about them than we will about North. But again, we just have to see what happens. In early season volleyball, you sometimes get surprises. One thing we know for sure, the weather won't be a factor there, as it was with the county soccer tournament on Saturday. Everything postponed from last Saturday until this Saturday. Same places, same time. So it begins at 10 o'clock at Clear Spring for the boys, and then we'll pick up with the girls later in the day. That would be a 4 o'clock start for the first girls game at Williamsport. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of the season. As a matter of fact, I said I'd look forward to, but I'll be seeing Dan here in just a few minutes. So will you. Overtime coming up in just a moment.
Behind every great child, there is a great foundation. Premier Martial Arts will empower your child and give them a premier foundation to success. Our instructors have the passion to teach classes designed to build premier skills. Your child will develop greater self-control, confidence, and concentration. Premier Martial Arts will take your child up the path of greatness. Call Premier Martial Arts today.
Saturday, September 26th, Budweiser presents Fairgrounds Country Fest with Travis Tritt at Hagerstown's Fairgrounds Park. Spend a day in the country with Travis Tritt and friends, Craig Wayne Boyd, winner of The Voice, Jana Kramer, Davison Brothers Band, Lindsay Highlander, and more. Saturday, September 26th at Fairgrounds Country Fest. Gates open at 11:45 a.m. Tickets starting at $30 and are on sale now at fairgroundsfest.com. Limited number of tickets available. Details and tickets online at fairgroundsfest.com.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue now and finish up with my favorite segment and one of my favorite Herald Mail insiders, Dan Kaufman. Here is Overtime. Dan?
Thank you very much, Wes. For those who don't know, I'm a wee bit of a math nerd. I've always enjoyed digging into and analyzing statistics, and as the main volleyball writer at the Herald Mail, there's more than enough numbers to keep me interested. Here's just a small sampling. 29, the number of state championships won by Washington County public school teams. 13, the number of titles won by Williamsport, second in state history to Centennial's 14. 10, the number of titles won by Smithsburg, which ranks third in state history. The Leopards have won 5 titles in 6 years to steadily climb up the list. 3, the number of titles won by North Hagerstown over the last 4 seasons. 5, the number of titles won by Williamsport coach Emily Crabtree and Smithsburg coach Rachel Brashear. The county record is 6 by former Williamsport coach Cindy Neugebauer. And if you're wondering, the state record is 8 by Centennial's Michael Bosom. 21, the number of years Williamsport has reached the state semifinals, a state record. 70, the number of kills by Williamsport's Jessica Benchoff in the 1992 Class 1A state final, a ridiculous state record that still stands. 33, the number of aces Smithsburg served in its semifinal victory last year, a rally-scoring state record. And last but not least, 23, the number of Class 1A state titles won over the last 34 years by Washington County schools. How's that for state domination? By the way, an early prediction, that number will be 24 titles in 35 years, a little more than 2 months from now. And I don't think I'll get egg on my face for that one.
What are we back in 2006 again?
You know, we got to bring up ancient history whenever we can.
Evidently, we're still living on that. I need to put an earbud in for my particular overtime, so insert earbud here. After 1 week of the NFL season, let the overreacting commence. Fan bases in St. Louis and Buffalo are already scouring StubHub for tickets to Super Bowl 50. That's the result of the Rams and Bills' respective victories over the Super Bowl runners-up and the AFC Championship bridesmaids of a year ago in their respective season openers. Meantime, the self-proclaimed Henny Pennies are 100% convinced after Week 1's results that the sky is falling in both Seattle and Indianapolis. Why not? After all, we're now officially at the critical 0.062% mark of the season. Meantime, the sky's the limit in Nashville, where rookie quarterback Marcus Mariota is the toast of the town there. Not only did he lead the Tennessee Titans to victory on Sunday, Mariota fired 4 touchdown passes. That's more than Peyton Manning, Joe Flacco, Jay Cutler, and Eli Manning combined. But then the same can be said of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Matt McGloin. By the way, Mariota is on a pace to throw a league record 64 touchdown passes this season. While those are admittedly huge overreactions by fans and observers, perhaps the biggest overreaction came courtesy of Houston Texans head coach Bill O'Brien, who benched his starting quarterback after 54 minutes of Game 1. So while it's location that's so valuable in the world of real estate, it's perspective that's so desperately needed when it comes to assessing the opening week in the world of Bob Kraft's NFL. I'm sorry, what did I say? Of course Bob Kraft owns the New England Patriots, not the NFL. Where in the world would I have heard such a thing? Somehow it was being piped into my earbud. I have a feeling the Pittsburgh Steelers can relate to that, and because it involved the Patriots, have already overreacted to it. Dan, this is what we love about overtime. we can voice our opinions.
And vent. Do you feel better now?
I do. I'm removing the earbud at this point. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to all of you for watching this week. Next week, it's week 3 of the high school football season, plus round 2, weather permitting, of the county soccer tournament. That and much more coming up on Inside Sports in 7 days right here. I'll see you then on the Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers.